Hello everybody, it is Nicole from iiKiui, and today I wanted to try something a little bit different. I thought it would be fun to have my followers on Instagram help me design a mermaid. On Instagram, I asked you guys to choose certain designs to create a mermaid. After posting these in my story, I waited 24 hours to get the results. If you want to be part of future videos like this, be sure to follow me on Instagram at iiKiui. For the first question, I asked her age. The majority chose teenager with 150 votes. Second was adult at 87, then child and elder. In the beginning, teenager and adult were neck and neck, and usually only a few votes off from each other. But ultimately, teenager pulled ahead and won the vote. The second question asked her personality, choosing between studious, shy, cool, and outgoing. In the beginning, it was outstandingly cool. However, after 24 hours, shy took over with 97 votes, followed by cool with 86, then outgoing and studious. The third question asked her expression, choosing between happy, sad, frustrated, and confused. Happy easily won with 155 votes, followed by confused with 78, then frustrated and sad. These three questions helped me determine the body proportions and pose. Because she was a teenager, I wanted her to look more youthful. In order to do that, I made sure her cheeks were fuller and her eyes large. Typically, when it comes to age, the older you want the character to look, the more defined the cheeks are and the smaller the eyes in proportion to the face. They also have bigger noses and ears because they never stop growing. This is just some general information I learned when studying in life drawing, but I wanted to keep this in mind when designing this character. The personality and expression helped me determine a pose that would reflect her shy nature, but also show her mood. I kept her pose reserved, with one arm holding the other close to her body. I gave her a smile, but also gave her upturned eyebrows to reinforce her shy personality. The next three questions covered her hair. First, I asked her hair length, which was easily decided. Extra long won with 109 votes, followed by long, medium, and short. Then I asked for her hair type, and again, one was clearly the winner. Wavy won with 111 votes, followed by curly, then styled, and straight. Lastly, I asked if she was wearing any hair accessories, and this vote was the closest out of all the questions. Shell crown won by one vote with 88 votes, closely followed by pearls with 87, then starfish and none. Because it was so close, I decided to include some pearls in her shell crown. Afterwards, I asked what was covering her top half, and scales won with 96 votes, followed by shells, then starfish, and seaweed. I then asked a yes/no question about arm accessories, and the majority said yes. For her tail, I asked two questions. The first question asked what her tail looks similar to, and tropical fish won with 133 votes, followed by dolphin, shark, then jellyfish. Then I asked if she had extra fins, and the majority said yes. I also asked if there was a sea creature friend with her, and the majority voted yes again, so I'd included some tropical fishies that I based her tail on. The last two questions helped me determine my execution. The first question asked you all to choose a color palette, and cool tones easily won with 150 votes, followed by warm, then monochrome, and grayscale. And the final question asked what medium I should use, and the winner was my watercolor palette with 110 votes, followed by markers, water brush pens, and ink only. I was a little surprised because I'm still learning when it comes to watercolors, but I'm glad you all still enjoy seeing me paint with it anyways. Now that all the numbers are out of the way, I'll talk about this mermaid. As I mentioned before, her pose is supposed to reflect her personality. I wanted her to look reserved, but also showing signs of happiness. I did a rough thumbnail sketch in my notebook to draft out a pose, and then did a rough sketch on my iPad to try and capture the pose. I just wanted a rough idea before I tried to execute it on copy paper. As you saw in the beginning, I draw very loosely and rough because I'm focusing on getting the proportions, pose, and composition right. Once I'm happy with those, I move into a refined sketch where I do a lot of erasing. I'll erase the rough line, then add a more definitive clean line. At this point, I'm not even sure if you could call it a sketch, but I tend to work very clean. If you want me to go more in depth about my process, let me know in the comments below and I can make a video on that. After I'm done with the refined sketch, I transfer it onto my watercolor paper. Not only does this give me a cleaner line art on my watercolor paper, but it saves my original sketch in case I mess up. I didn't record this process because, as I mentioned in a previous video, I don't have my light pad with me, so I made a makeshift one using a flashlight, a stool, and a glass table. Moving on to color, I used my GenCrafts watercolor palette. I did a review on this a while ago, so if you're interested in that, I'll leave a card for it. Since I'm still away from my office, this was the only watercolor palette I brought with me. Because you all chose a cool color palette, I chose my tropical fish based on those colors. I'll leave a picture and the name of the fish on screen so you can see the inspiration. I really liked the blue fins on this fish, and that inspired me to create the mermaid's fins around that. I also included the pattern on her tail, hoping that the black would help make her tail more interesting. Originally, I was going to scrap the black pattern, but then when I drafted a color comp, she just looked too plain and too blue. Since you all chose a cool tone color palette, making her all blue would kind of be cheating since monochromatic wasn't chosen. I'll be honest though, I haven't really used watercolor much outside of videos. Much of the time, I do a lot of sketching, but not a lot of final work. In the beginning, I felt like I didn't know what I was doing, but as time progressed, I slowly remembered how to use watercolors. I based a lot of the colors on the fish, except for the purple. The fish had this blue sheen on the black parts, and the fins went from blue to almost aqua. I tried to incorporate that by making her top scales more aqua, then creating a gradient into her tail, which was more blue. When coloring the tail, I kind of forgot about the white, so it ended up being blue. I chose purple for her hair because it kept the cool color palette, but also added a new color. Originally, it was going to be dark blue, almost black, but I felt that it would take away from the pattern on her tail. I felt the purple was a nice balance. It was dark enough to make her body and tail pop, but not too dark where the pattern would blend into her hair. In order to get the shade of purple I wanted for her hair, I painted the color several times after each layer dried. I added some shimmery silver watercolor, which I'll link down below. I wanted to give the mermaid the same shimmery effect the fish had. I mostly added this paint to the scales on her left so it looked like it was reflecting light. I was really hesitant to outline at first because I really liked how soft she looked without a harsh black line. However, a lot of my watercolor marks were kind of messy, and using the black fine liner would help clean it up a bit. In the end, I decided not to outline everything, so I tried to keep it to a minimum. For example, in the hair, I only outlined the shape rather than all the strands. Since I lined all the inside lines with paint, I felt that keeping it that color would help keep the soft feeling of this piece. I'll admit, halfway through the outlining process, I was feeling some regret because I felt like it changed the piece entirely. In some ways, I think it did. I feel like it made it look more cartoony and stylized, but then again, that is the style that I am going for, so ultimately it worked in my favor. I hope you enjoyed the video and the mermaid we created together. If you want me to do more videos like this, let me know by liking and leaving a comment with other ideas. I thought it was really fun, and I'd love to do something that involved you all again. And if you want to continue seeing videos like this, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so you're notified of when a new video comes out. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. Keep drawing, keep creating, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!